Hello, today I'm going to show you guys how to do an aseptic transfer from home. Now the first thing you are going to make sure you do if you're in a lab is if you've got longer hair, make sure you put it up, make sure you've got your lab coat and some gloves on. So we've got our inoculating loop ready to go, we've got our incinerator ready to go, we've got our test tube rack, and we've got our test tubes. We've got our bacterial broth, we've got our sterile broth, and we've got our agar slant. So to do from broth to broth transfer, you're going to make sure you're going to pull your cap off of your tube. Make sure you don't tilt it up or set it down. And that way you can make sure you don't get any extra environmental bacterial contamination in there. You're going to make sure you don't tilt the broth too far or else you might spill it. And you're going to put your inoculating loop in and pick up a little bit of the broth. You're going to pull it out and be careful not to touch the sides. And don't wave your inoculating loop around because you don't want to pick up any extra bacteria. You'll put your cap back on, and then you're going to grab your sterile broth that you're transferring to, pull the cap off, and you're going to reach in and still make sure you don't touch the sides and make sure you don't tilt it too far. And you're going to get it there in the sterile broth and make sure you shake it a little bit just to make sure that you really get the bacteria in there. You're going to pull it out carefully, put your cap back on, and then you're going to incinerate your loop for about 10 to 15 seconds to make sure that you don't get any, so you don't contaminate your environment or contaminate your next sample. Once you've decontaminated that, you'll pull it out. Now to do from broth to an agar slant, you're going to take your bacterial broth, pull your cap off, be careful. You're going to go in, make sure you get a little bit of your broth, and pull it out carefully again, not tilting too far, making sure you're keeping the lid in one position, not tilting it up. You're going to put it back in your test tube rack. Now you're going to take your agar slant, you're going to pull the cap off, keep it tilted down and held in your hand, and then you're going to put your inoculating loop in, and you're just going to gently touch it to the bottom of the agar slant, and you're going to make an S shape as you pull it out so that you make sure you really get it across the top of that agar slant. And once you pull it out, be careful not to touch the sides or anything. Put your cap back on and put it back in the test tube rack. Then you're going to turn around and you're going to incinerate your loop one more time. Make sure you hold it for about 10 to 15 seconds and make sure you don't get any extra contamination into your environment. Pull it out, and once it's been decontaminated again, you can set it down. And the only other thing you really got to make sure you do is make sure that your sterile broth that you're transferring to and your agar slant are properly labeled with your name and your section number and everything. All right, and that is how you perform an aseptic bacterial transfer.